Am I coming through, Jimmy? Loud and clear or what? Can you hear the nice crunch of my crackers? Good. Swear I'm going blind these days. That's none of your business. Alright, where'd we leave off? Well, I'll tell you where we left off. Right here, you jerk. The old Thomas P. Ives house on 66 Power Street. There's her. This, stunning beauty, we're told, was built in 1803. No, or 1805. One of the two. 1803, let's call it. Told it's the largest and most elegant houses of the period and Providence. Period. The home of a prominent Providence family. The Ives. There's this one, what sits sort of uncomfortably. And this one. That's a weird hand. Doesn't look natural, does it? You know what else has a hard time drawing hands? AI art. Just saying. What do we got here? This, 30-room mansion. Well, Mr. Ives. He gave it to his widow, Hope, till her death 20 years later. Then it went to her son, Moses. Moses B. Ives. Till his death 2 years later to his widow, Anne Allendore Ives. To her death, to her daughter, Mrs. Hope Brown Ives Russell. The old Russell. 13 bloodlines, Illuminati connection. Until her death in 1909. To her cousins Robert Goddard. To Robert Goddard Jr. 1 year later. And when he died, seems weird that cousin and also cousin's son would die. It was willed to, you guessed it, Brown University. With the life tenancy for his wife, so she could live there until she died, and then it went to Brown. Just like every other mansion. Now this says, according to an unverified tradition, Thomas P. Ives sent to England for plans for the house. Oh, that's all you need. Plans. Just plans. Plans will help you do all this. Plans is all you need. Why a piece of paper? Now the story goes, in 1769, Mr. Thomas Point Ives was born. He entered the house of Brown and Benson as a clerk at age 13, 1782. So at age 13, becomes a clerk, and 10 years later he marries Nicholas Brown's daughter Hope, becomes a partner, and he acquires a 2-acre tract on Power Street, just to the east of which John Brown had erected a mansion. According to tradition, Mr. Ives sent to England for plans of a house which came designated as a Georgian manor house with a paired courtyard, stable, and coach house. And street number at first was 37, was changed to 66 when the highway was renumbered, and he became a Satanist. The estate is now bounded by Brown Street and Charlesfield Street on the north. These highways having been laid out after the house was erected. Oops, I skipped ahead there on the picture side. A bunch of hoobity-joobity about here with the imported brick. Chimneys made of marble, and it's kind of interesting. It says, aside from the expenses for rum, the earliest surviving document with respect to the house is a proposal made by James Walcott, dated 1804, to furnish certain building materials. Everything comes with its era of unbelievability. However you say it. We'll fix that in post. You know what, actually, Jimmy? I'll leave it in. It adds character. I forgot to say hello. Hello. Well, whatever. Who says I have to do the same thing every time? Because I don't. I can eat crackers rudely. This is Franklin Smith house on 9 Hidden Street. Everything in Rhode Island seems to be named like a cartoon show. It's a very small frame house built before 1829. Yet it's still on the registry. There's a man named Moses Brown who shows up just about everywhere, unless everyone there is named Moses. But regardless, Moses Brown sells this house to Franklin Smith, who then sells it 1 year later to Jesse Parks, who was a mason, it says. Jesse Parks then sells it to Clarissa Johnson, who then sells it to Dan Y. Stickney, who then gives power of authority to Thomas Phillips, who then sells it for, I don't know, something of Frank Snow, a carpenter, all that kind of stuff. It was built before 1829 by Franklin Smith, who identified as a mechanic. That's not a modern terminology, okay? That's what it says here in this deed book, dated 1845. Okay, he identified as a mechanic, okay? The general statement is of an example of a very small, simple frame house built in 1828. That's it. That's why it's special. That might not be special to you or me, but, we don't make the rules. Apparently Rhode Island does. We'll move right along to the Solomon Townsend home. Very biblical names here in Rhode Island. I guess it's to be expected, eh? This sort of Puritan haven. These cute little windows. All over. What do you think they mean by now? Got any ideas? Solomon Townsend. The property history begins here. Built in the late 1820s with Isaac Brown. Not Moses Brown. Isaac Brown. His son, I suppose. Sells it to Gideon Hatch, who sells it to James Riley, who sells it to Solomon Townsend, who sells it to Moses Eddy, who sells it back to Solomon Townsend, then to Charles Porter, then to George Dow, then to someone named Albert Durfee. None of that means anything. It's just the only notes that they have about this building. And here's the front of it. They want you to see how mismatched it is. This one right there has got a little bit more to it. First of all, it's known as the Marshall Woods House. It's on 62 Prospect Street. And this guy, we're told, is one of the largest houses in Providence. It was built in the 1860s and designed by Richard Upjohn. That's right. Until the following information on Marshall Woods, the original owner, was prepared by Margaret Fletcher. He was the only son of Dr. Alva and Almira Woods. His education was in the private schools of Providence. He graduated from Brown University, class of 1845, but he got his MD in 1848 from the University of the City of New York. He did not practice medicine, but gave his time to Brown University, becoming a trustee and a senior member of the corporation in 1892. Treasurer of the university for 20 years. He was sent to the Paris Exposition, World's Fair, and was made a member of the Fine Arts Jury. He also received the French Legion of Honor in that same year, aged 31. His wife was Anne Brown Francis. She was the daughter of Governor John Brown Francis. Richard Upjohn in the period. It affords an interesting contrast, blah, 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 blah. Made of Philadelphia brick, we're told. Now, this, and apparently, it says, through the courtesy of Mrs. Gilbert Glass, whoever that is, copies of letters written to Mr. Upjohn by Mr. and Mrs. Woods have been made available for study. The letters show that most of the lumber came from Bangor, Maine, the brick came from Philadelphia, and many of the workmen, particularly the masons, were sent from New York. Now, this information doesn't come from, though it says the courtesy of Mrs. Gilbert Glass. Actually, it's copied from an unpublished master's thesis from Anita F. Glass, where the F stands for freakin'. Miss Anita Glass provides 30 letters that were unresponded to by Mr. Upjohn regarding the many anxieties endured by Marshall Woods. You know, some of this reads like a really weird diary, like the kind of person that asks a question to their diary, which is fine when you're like 15. I can't help but wonder, does he love me? It's more like, I shall soon go to work in the barn and stable plans. I wish I had decided to put window seats in the south windows of the reception room and of the south parlor, having their short French windows. Can it be done now? Who the hell writes like that? They can't even get her name right. Unpublished master's thesis? Copies of letters? What for? These letters are so boring. Written like an architect student. For example, what modern person, a non-builder, a doctor, writes things like, how does the arch finish against the main wall, on a corbel or an ante? Shall the height of the dado of the staircase be higher than the handrail of the same height? The beams are to be tied together where they meet with pieces of plank, say the specifications of the carpenter. This evidently refers to each beam, but as I wrote yesterday, I fear the wooden connection and substituted iron. These anchors are so important as regards the springing of the floor that I request your close attention to it. Telegraph whether the anchors are to go on each beam where it meets together. You got all these copies of letters that were written to this one guy who never responded, meaning he received those letters, never responded, kept them. Someone later on copied them. I just don't understand why they would even be present. That's the story we're given. This is Mr. Thomas P.I. from 66 Power Street Stable and Coach House. This is a 2-story brick building with a completely unnecessary archway right here and right here that they simply just filled in a little bit, or a lot bit. And there is virtually zero information about it, other than brick L-shaped 2 stories, built 1803, by Caleb Ormsby, the master builder. The old clock. One wonders what the point of all these doors is. And here's what sits in relation to this house, with its dubious windows. This here is the Kilton Wilkinson house on Main Street. Yep, it originally sold for £50 to Nicholas Power. Apparently built between 1746 and 1750. Mr. Corliss, inventor of the Corliss steam engine, was the first person to own the entire house. And this is here where they erected the gold patent cast iron sectional steam boiler. It grew to such a massive extent till 1914, until this here corporation known as Smith Gibbs bought all the rights and subsequently died. There is a basement. It is interesting to note that this building antedates the beginning of the Revolutionary War, the First Baptist Meeting House, and the old market building. In other words, this sumbitch is old. And as usual, this little batch, we just given the old 2-picture treatment, along with the name of a person, followed by the word house, and then a little bit of description about it, and 2 pictures at most. So, I'm just following the survey here. I'm going as in-depth as it will allow. And apparently, likes to keep people at arm's distance. This is here Thomas L. Halsey House. Example of a large early 19th century brick house. Built in 1801. With fluted Roman Doric columns. That's it. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see over here either. Mind your own business. Quit looking at the sides of everything. What the fuck you think this is? I don't think so. I know. This is the D. Wolfe Middleton house on Papa Squash Road. No longer existence. This house is designed by Russell Warren and constructed between 1803 and 1808. Demolished in the 20th century, documented by the Garden Club, and it's called the Hey Bonnie Hall because of, well, I don't know. Mr. William DeWolf built the house in 1808. Then again, we got another authority that states that the house was built in 1803 by Captain DeWolf, member of Congress. The present owner inherited from her mother, Anne DeWolf, who married Nathaniel Russell Middleton. That doesn't complicate things. Mrs. Middleton had the place through her father, Henry DeWolf, who was the son of the original owner, Phileon DeWolf. A very old drawing of the house is reproduced, and the title states it's called the Middleton House. So who the hell knows? Certainly not these people. This is the Governor Henry Lippett House. This is built in 1875. It's 199 Hope Street, Governor Henry Lippett. The current owner is Miss Mary L.H. Doolittle. She inherited the house, some sort of manuscript notebook kept by William Bimney, the original owner, now in possession of the present owner, titled something something, Agreements for Materials and Labor, New House on Hope Street, 1863, Henry Lippett. Carpenter and Childs did all the carpentry work. Really? And his last name happened to be Carpenter, huh? Blah, 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 blah. And what a delightful building. This looks a little strange. Not sure what happened here. It looks kind of crumpled up. But the rest of it, this almost looks like a model. And, rather incredible. God, incredible indeed. Let's look at this sumbitch. Who the fuck needs a house like this? Don't let Henry from the Hendersons see these. He'll freak out. Harry, whatever his name is. What a cool light. This is our guy, huh? This is like sort of like a fascies. A lot of very interesting lighting here. Whoa, look at the size of that cornice. It's looking all too familiar of a shape, like satellite photography shows. Looking for patterns in the clouds, patterns in the sky, patterns in the ceilings, and in the fireplace. Oh my. And really everywhere. Pretty stunning. What happened here? And, of course, not the kind of fireplace you burn wood in. What an elaborate, amazing place. Just fucked around and threw it all up together in 1803, huh? You just, guys just knew how to do this, huh? And you promptly, wandered off and just forgot? No one passed it down? Very rarely. In a long time do they make wall decorations like this and wallpaper like this. I mean, unless it's very throwback or very, how could this be so commonplace? These rooms are ridiculous. And a bit over the top, sure, but just the level of detail, just around the window frames, and I mean, these carved wood, it's just unbelievable. Now, okay, sure, maybe it was done exactly the way they say. Well, then what the hell happened to us? Either way, this is a sign that we are not progressing. We are devolving. And I just don't see that happening in the day-to-day. I see change, but I don't see devolution. I don't see regression in many ways. I feel like this must belong to a different culture and era. Who would want that? Top of their mirror. Just very different. And what a fancy little grill. It's almost like it's for a cool rapper, Like that's his grill. You feel me? He's like, call it chimney sweep and tell him make me a grill. Here we are to haunt you, dozens of little glass ladies. No thanks. What an ridiculous place, really. How can you take yourself seriously? This is your house. Shadowfax. Yally Bob, fraggin' hidey. This little parlor piece, the granite top, whatever. That little creepy little girl above the mantel. No thanks. This little guy. No thanks. Oh, look, we got these little things again. Just everywhere, they're just everywhere, no matter where you go. Like, what do you do with that? I'll tell you what you do. You raise one eyebrow, and then you lower the other one, and you stare at it with deep suspicion. That's what I does, anyway. Governor Lippett. The Russell Potter House. Built in whatever time that this was fashionable, remodeled whenever this became fashionable. I'm going on break. 26 John Street. That's the address. Presumably built by Russell Potter, who was identified as a house right around 1810. And no further information, so you can just move right along. Here's the other angle. Where'd the dog come from, huh? That's what I want to know. Not here in this one. Boosh. Dog. Catch him. Question him. Maybe he knows something. Maybe these windows know something. Hell, I don't know. They do claim that there is, actually, they don't even claim there's a basement on this one. So it looks like they messed up, bro. We'll just go ahead and leave the basement out of that. And that tiny door. Don't mention it. Maybe they won't notice. Be 100 years before someone comes along and notices us. Well, guess what, bub? 100 years is up. Explain the doorway. And exactly what I would expect to find in the roof of a clothing company. An entrance like this. That isn't an entrance, just for a window. A little tower here, repurposed. Of course. This is exactly nothing to see here. You might as well entitle this one Boring Boredom from Boardsville. Oh, the Joseph Russell House. How many Russells are there in this town? Too many. Too many, that's so. Many. 1772. A poor state of preservation it's described as. Much of it is now installed in the Brooklyn Museum because it's been removed. It's been raised a story and a ground floor of shops inserted under it. Really? So you mean this at one point was the entrance, and they decided to lift the whole thing up and put a shop underneath it, huh? Well, then what'd they do? What about this? They lifted it up, and then they dug a basement, and then put a shop under it? Ridiculous. Who would do such a thing? No one. That's quite the looker next door, too. I imagine the way they're describing this is probably gone, but there's no other information about it because, here in Rhode Island, I like to just leave it a bit vague, Very well, you and your one-picture pony show. I suppose, since I'm covering the survey, I'll just have to deal with it. But I don't like it. This is the Edward S. Underwood home. Is there any house around here that doesn't have a name? No. This one was sold for $500. Edward Underwood to Abigail Green. Abigail Green to Christopher Pierce. And then to Henry Horton, who had a who, or so I heard, built in the 1820s with no additional information. Other than as one of the few examples in Providence of a house with 4 bays wide with an unusual elevated basement. Built in the 1820s. From what I've seen, sir, this is highly usual, but maybe it's your first day. This one, I'm afraid you'll have to stand behind the fence before you take the picture. You can't get any closer than that, okay? Just stand back there. That's a good boy. This is the Elisha Wells house, or Elisha. It was, built in 1815 or so, of fieldstone, and that's it. Prepared by Osmond R. Osmond, architect, 1962. Osmond R. Osmond. Is there someone really named that? First and last name the same? Come on. We won't let you get closer. You have to stand behind the fence there. But you can come inside and look at the mantle. Both mantles. And the staircase. That's all you got. So you see, there's no sex dungeon. I just showed you everything. This here is the West Pope House. An unusual series of houses built on William Street at this time. We're not told why it was unusual. It just was, okay? Nothing else to see here. That they want to tell us, anyway. Well, I suppose you can look at the mantles in this one as well. Look at it, it's these same little guys that we see everywhere. They can't just be log holders. At this point, that'd be ridiculous. And what happened here? What a disgrace. Look how thick those walls are. My God, why would you tear that down? This here is the Wheaton and Anthony building, the second one. Built in 1872, designed by the locally prominent architectural firm of Stone and Carpenter in the Second Empire style. I love that, Second Empire. It gives so much away. But it says it's now one of only a handful which remain. Did they see what's happening here? It was the first building in the city to have an elevator, which is still in place. Extremely handsome example of later 19th century commercial architecture. Its visual quality is enhanced by its juxtaposition to the adjacent buildings, and in turn, the streetscape and historic character of the abutting custom houses are much enhanced by this building, which is why we're destroying it. Because we don't like enhancement. Ridiculous. Here, they're talking about how important and integral it is, and how striking and wonderful it is, how much it adds to the street, and they just gutted it, the whole damn thing. Here it says, the building's been vacant since early 1982. Well, yeah, if it looked like this in 1962, I could see why. It's been vacant. What a joke. Made of stone and brick, and completely destroyed, apparently. Though they don't want to admit it. But I see the pitches. And look at that basement. And what is all this? Unbelievable that they would just wreck something like this. No one had any use for it, huh? Even though it was a restaurant, a stationery store, it was all these things. And, nope, we're just gonna smash it. What we do in America. This here is the George and Smith Owen building. My God. I'm getting tired of these fucking names. Is there a single building that doesn't have a name on it? Joseph Angel gives it to his son Nathan Angel, the innkeeper, in consideration of the love and goodwill and affection I have and do bear towards my dutiful son. I give one full or half part of my 3 lots of land in Providence opposite to my homestead land of my brother John Angel. God. No dad does that. No dad I know. More like, here's $100, kid. Good job. I'm don't need the rest of the state. And George and Smith Owens proposed to erect a new brick store here. It says in this newspaper article, I think. It's Jewelers and Silversmiths, that's what it is. Named George Church, Seth Cheney, on and on. 1847, we're told. No other information. I don't even want any more at this point. Fuck you. This ought to be a good one to explain. Well, which one is it? This must be the, Caleb Roffey house. Yep, Caleb Roffey. The original owner was Samuel Green and Polly Green. Everyone green. Everyone green. And of course, the mortgage was paid to Mr. Ives. So there's like 10 people that moved here first, and then sold everything eventually to just later comers for whatever they wanted, I guess. And there's no information on any of this stuff. Just a deed. Just to see as a bill of sale, see, so you know what happened. This ridiculous picture with these carts and buggies, yet we have electricity or gaslight, I suppose they'll tell us. Bringing all the material to build these buildings in these little rickety carts. And I don't buy it, Gabna. Now I want you to notice something in this picture. The trees are casting a shadow that goes up to the left. Same with this one. This guy's casting a shadow down and to the right. Unless it's a dog by his feet? I don't know. I can't tell. Maybe it is a dog down there by his feet. Either way, where's your shadow, bub? Something goofy about this picture. Especially these guys like hovering. Who knows? There's not even a number by this one, so I can't even tell you what house it's to. You probably know, don't you? You and your doofy hat. Look at those eyes. Who the fuck paints a picture like that? With one giant eye. You hang that on the mantle? What the hell's wrong with you? So I paint a picture like that, I'd be fucking pissed. Pay top dollar for this portrait. You made me look like a wanker. The Tuck-Watton house, huh? Gee, that looks believable. No wonder they tore it down before there were cameras. And, nice mantle. I mean, sure wish I know what I was looking at. Love these old cars. But this ain't no car survey. And we certainly aren't given any information about this. Let me guess. The mirror came from around the horn. I guess it probably didn't have to if it was Rhode Island. Across the channel, you mean? Whatever. Henry Door Derever. And what's going on back here? Looking a little busted. Look at that basement. Give me a break that you built that like that. All these buildings, man, they just look preposterous. Think that everywhere on Earth built everything like this. Went to the extra hardship, no matter where they were, no matter what type of terrain they were at in America. All of them built the same way. And I don't buy it. It isn't obvious by now. I'm not buying it. Why would you do this to yourself in a place that snows? Why would you make this deadly-ass driveway? These stairs. Look, where I live, it doesn't snow. We don't even have stairs like this. But you're telling me in this icy place, this is what you want. I carry my parcels up the stairs here, and hope to God I don't break my neck every single day. Seems ridiculous. If you were going to build like this, why wouldn't you cover the whole thing? No. We're going to build these windows that are halfway buried in the snow. Yeah, that's it. Preposterous. The old state house here. And none of it making very much sense at all to me. Not at all. Pretty sweet paneling, though. I don't really do this stuff anymore. Here's your little goofy guys. Little star fort-shaped clock there. Something's going on here. Why would you build a structure like this? Well, we dug it out and then we just filled it all in. Same with over here. We switched materials part way. We were like, you know what? Nah, never mind. Let's leave that. Let's just, let's start over here fresh with brick. Yeah. Makes perfect sense. This isn't no uneven terrain. This is exactly the way God meant for it to be built when we found it that way. I mean, intentionally built it that way. Commissioned someone, likely named Carpenter or Stone or a Holden Green or a Russell or whatever. That's all there is to it, and you don't need to worry about it, you foreigner, like this one. Logically, of course you build a house like this. Why, who wouldn't? Who indeed? Not to mention that bad boy back there. Who indeed would build a house like this? I don't think anyone would, personally. In this day and age, we've been all through this. Well, what am I to do? But go through the surveys one by one, painstakingly, methodically, and look at all of it, and absorb all the building styles and structures of America. Look at all the ridiculous things we're forced to swallow and believe that are normal, functionless part of decorative, shared by all buildings all across the world, and we're supposed to think nothing of it. We're supposed to think, okay, yeah, I see all this. It defies logic and defies common sense, but you know what? This government would never lie to me, never lie to anyone. Matter of fact, no one ever lies. Period. So why would I ever believe anyone would lie to me? Except reality is, the very opposite is true. Now this is the second house or third house I've seen with this exact wallpaper. These people up here on the shore netting something, this crescent moon thing, this looking like scenes from Morocco, and I'm wondering to myself why? Why would you be decorating your home like this in Providence, Rhode Island? In the 1700s. Why would you be? And I don't think you would be. I think this paper was from the modern time, meaning the people that lived here first. 'Twas they who designed all of this, for the most part. It is their buildings that we are forced to deal with, come up with new backstories for, and purpose. Look at this one's a water plant. See the water coming out here? It was they who constructed most of these places. What, do you think people in 18th century Italy have American wallpaper on their pictures of scenes of America, Native Americans on their walls? Yeah, right. It was not just one either. Now, I don't know, of course I'm recklessly speculating, but look how ridiculous this is. Of course, Nicholas and Collins, another Potter Jr., National Eagle Bank, Rogers Williams National Bank. It's always the same. Look at this symbology here. It's always the same, no matter where you go. And here, what are we doing? Are we destroying it? Probably. Tearing it down? Most definitely. Let's see what's going on over here. Some gnarly vines. And most of these, as usual, don't have any information about them. They don't have any call number I can look up. But they do got cellars. They do got weird foundations. They do got brick hiding underneath the surface. Familiar motifs on the wall. Fireplaces galore, 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 galore. This is another one that fell over sideways, passed out on the floor. Look at him. He's like, blood. Got a little fluid leaking out here. Blood. Stand up, buddy. And what have we here? Wow, they opened up those little doors for us. What the hell's in there? Does that go outside? What a weird layout. Better lock the door, Jimmy. Oi, oi, sir. Double lock it, if you would. To all people whom these presents shall come. The hell you guys think you're doing? You get your grubby dick beaters off that building. Oh, of course. And all the people that drive these live here. How stupid do you think we are? 'Cause we are. We'll surprise you. What is this, the firehouse, or the courthouse, or the church, or the assembly room, or the normal room, or the college or university, mess hall, or whatever it is, you name it. It's been repurposed. These have been bricked in. This has been fixed up. This has been bricked in. Got the chalices up here on the top. This'll do for now. Yep, who knows? Probably a power building. Ah, the old market building, of course. Oh, let's put some scaffolding up on it and act like we're building it. What the hell are you doing to it? Looks like it's in perfectly good condition to me. Look at these back here. Great picture. Just bizarre. Who would have thought? Rhode Island, I didn't know. I didn't know that every single frickin' house on your land was so steeped in bizarre mystery. Look at that bad boy up there on the hill behind it. What do we don't get to look at these? What? We gotta look at the John Jimmy house and everything? Look at that frickin' window. Give me a break. Look at that black and white checkered floor. And these houses are equal parts glorious and equal parts disturbing. Front door up here, huh? Oh my god, what the hell is this? Give me a fucking break. That's not a castle. No, of course not. It's just the Providence Marine Corps arsenal. Yeah, built in 1840. The Providence Marine Corps of Artillery had its origin here. It threw fortifications for the defense of the town in the War of 1812, which barely happened, and helped quell the Dorr insurrection in 1842. Took part in the Civil War, and was mustered in the U.S. service in 1896. And this is where it all began. There's a basement used for furnace room, and the utility room's underneath the northeast tower. Everyone knows that the Marine Corps love old Gothic buildings that are built like with this sort of below-grade elevation, and these massive doors that mean nothing. Sure. Explain that fucking door, someone. Marine Corps. My Corps. Our door. Look at that fucking thing. Good God. And this looks suspiciously like the back of a cannon, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Even these little handles down here. Like they were mounted at some point. Weird. It's almost as if these were not cannons after all. Maybe they were, what's the other word for a bunch of artillery? Battery? Batteries. You don't mean like, wait a minute. You don't mean like batteries, do you? Yeah, I do. I do mean that. But who am I? Just some rando on the internet, recklessly speculating, looking at things like this and saying that's a dumb place for someone to be buried. Who has the time to do this in the midst of forming a country and overthrowing off your oppressors? I don't know. Doesn't that look a little small? Like submerged? Isn't this all a little ridiculous? Yeah, you're one of those theorists, aren't you? What do they call you? Think people are lying about things and working against you? No, I'm just one of those observationalists that think that buildings that are this crooked in the fucking floor need some explaining. You mean to tell me you don't think that this looks like nothing happened here, huh? This is exactly made to order, huh? There's something fucking wrong with you. You looking at these streets and that's what you're thinking? There is something fucking wrong with you. Every country in the world, huh, did this. No one's figured it out. They can raise buildings up, but they can't lower streets down, huh? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Brick everywhere, but no brick yards. Imported them all from Philadelphia. 70,000 bricks at a time. What kind of boat is taking 70,000 bricks at a time? You know how heavy that would be? In the 1800s. Importing bricks from fucking Australia and Liverpool. Get out of here. These stories are stupid. You see, our enemy, contrary to some popular belief in my mind, isn't infallible. In fact, isn't even the core evil. Isn't even the head honcho. The real battle, the epic battle, it seems to me in my mind, has already taken place. What we're left with is like an underling, a left behind remnant. An officer that just saw nothing in his way. And once all the big dogs left, they thought they'd run things, but they're flawed. You know why they're flawed? Because there's no reason why anyone, a common person, should be able to look at things like this and get suspicious. They should have covered all of it up. But they couldn't, because they're flawed. They're not omnipotent. They're not all-powerful, and we can win this. They couldn't figure out how to mask any of this stuff. These backstories are ridiculous. The timeline's ridiculous. The repurposing of these buildings is ridiculous. And yeah, I'm just one random person. I'm not the only one noticing this. There's a lot of people asking a lot of questions. If you were really that badass, Mr. Enemy, we shouldn't even be able to have a clue. We should be mindlessly marching to our doom. But we're not. We're waking up in droves and droves. And a little censorship here and there with these random sites. That's the best you got? Get a little censorship? You get to censor someone like me? Ooh! You think that's gonna stop anything? Things are out of control because they never had control. Because they're not strong enough to be in control. And that should give everyone hope. Yeah, it's depressing thinking you've been lied to. Half our lives have been a joke. Half our lives are wasted away and we're slaves. Well, I'd rather be a slave and realize it at least partway through it, that's what's up. And break out of it, at least mentally. No one can hold you. So yeah, it is depressing. It does sometimes seem ridiculous and insurmountable, but clearly it's not, because here we are. We're able to ask these questions. We're able to poke and prod and make fun of these clowns and their dumb alibis, and even if some of it is true, okay, some of it's not true though. If I'm willing to come down halfway on that and say, okay, half of them are true, are you willing to admit that half of them are false? For some reason I don't think so. So you got a stubborn little life raft that you're clinging to, and trying to plug one little hole after another, and after a while, you just gotta come to terms with it. That raft ain't the one. We've been lied to. We've been duped. And this real truth is right in front of our eyes. Everywhere you look. Every city, every state, every town. This tiny little me going through these surveys is just one little drop of the sauce. One little bit. They're going through here trying to take pictures of all this stuff they need to cover up. Send these people out there. The survey of the United States. Yeah, okay. And gather up all the pictures later and go over them. Like, oh God, we gotta cover that up. Oh God, we gotta get rid of that. We gotta get rid of that. Too much. Too many pictures. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. You want to know why I know? I know because I got them all. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them in these surveys. Hundreds of thousands. And they paint a different picture than the one that we're given. As edited and censored as they are, they paint a different picture. There's things no one can explain. There's symbolism that means nothing to anyone. It just happens to be everywhere. That's not how it works. You don't carve statues of people. Do you carve statues of people you don't know and mean nothing to you and put them all over your house? No, you don't. Are you that different from these people? No, you're not. These are your grandparents, your great-grandparents. You think they just were that stylistically different than you? I don't think so. In fact, I don't think they were at all. If anything, they were just running from something or running from poverty, and they were gullible. They would believe anything. But we're not so gullible, because we've seen the mountaintop. You can't tell us shit. And even if we are fooled half the time, or majority of the time, or 90% of the time, or 99% of the time, still, it's that one. It's that one that's gonna do it. And there's one for everybody. There's something out there for everybody. It's going to turn every opinion. No matter how dyed in the wool, how stuck out in the rut they are, how many they dig their heels in, there is something that they're going to see at some point. They could see it would change everything. Whether it's the shitty photography of the so-called landing and the cold rocks floating around out there, whether it's the passport fluttering to the feet of a reporter when a giant fireball destroys one of the toughest buildings in the world history. No matter what it is, there's going to be some little speck somewhere that's going to be enough to convince everyone. And maybe it comes from me, maybe it comes from you, maybe it comes from any number of places. The more of us that are out there pointing at things and laughing at things and carrying on, mental freedom. That's what I want, and it's what you should want. And now, only because this particular Rhode Island survey is so limited in information, only because it keeps being so repetitive as far as just the builder's name, name of the house, chain of custody, etc., etc. And on that last note of rambling, I'm going to break from my normal custom. Have you enjoy this entirely original, completely thematic song as you peruse these last photographs of this segment of Rhode Island. So enjoy the song, and I'll see you soon.